All right, guys, welcome back. This is Fight Promoter University, and this is our ongoing series, Money Talks, where we talk about the business side of the fight game, both boxing and MMA, how it relates to club shows, what is happening behind the scenes on some of the bigger fights in the industry. And it's not just my opinion. This opinion's coming from all of our mentors and guest speakers in Fight Promoter University, and we take those collective thoughts because we have regular conversations, and then I obviously am giving some of my perspective on all this. So I plan to talk about another topic today, but I can't help touching on the Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. They both had this heated exchange on Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing podcast. Real excited about this fight, man. Listen, I called this, what was it, Monday's episode. I think it was Monday. I called that they needed to have a publicity stunt. The marketing game has changed for these local cards and big cards. You got social media stars. The fighters have so many outlets, and Ryan Garcia is capitalizing on it. I love that they got Tank on the phone. It looks like they have no choice but to fight now at this point, because whoever backs out now is going to be viewed as a coward. Not that that's true, but that's how it will be viewed by the fans. I was doing a little digging on it's widely regarded that that's pretty much a 50-50 fight. Each fighter's team thinks that they're the A side, which, that's always the case. But I was doing a little deep dive. Tank's largest pay-per-view was his last fight. He was guaranteed $1 million, and he had a share of the revenue. I think he ended up walking away with maybe 1.5 when it was all said and done. They had a little over 200,000 pay-per-view buys for his fight with Leo Santa Cruz. So, armed with those numbers, then we look at Ryan Garcia. DAZN does not release their viewership numbers all the time. However, I have heard good things about the card against Luke Campbell last Saturday. So hundreds of thousands, possibly over 1 million views. We're not sure, but it's in that range. Now, Ryan Garcia had a very public issue with his promoter in trying to get more money. Before that, he was being paid $250,000 heading into the Luke Campbell fight. He was making $250,000 a fight, plus maybe some upside stuff and sponsorships. Now he makes $1 million guaranteed per his new contract with Golden Boy. They don't have Canelo anymore, so they really need to take care of him. So, and he's worth it with what he brings to the sport and everything. So, they're making pretty much the same money. What's their followers? I'm just curious. Not that follower count is really anything. I think Ryan Garcia actually does a better job on social media. 8.2 million followers just on Instagram. And let's see, Gervonta 2.6. Ryan Garcia knows how to play how to play the game with he's really close with the Paul brothers, Logan and what's the other one? Logan and Jake. Sorry, Jake's the one that just had the big knock. I should have known that. So anyway, Ryan plays the game better. He's got a real big personality. He's just kind of made for stardom. If he beats Tank, forget it. He is a superstar. Oscar De La Hoya level superstar. Now Tank's Tank's a huge star as well, obviously. I don't think he's as much into the meeting up with influencers, all that whole thing. So, this is a 50-50 fight, 100%, both in the ring and the negotiating table. The negotiations should not be the only thing that would be an issue with negotiations, assuming they both clearly understand that this should be a 50-50 fight, just in terms of what they bring, brand, what they've been making recently, etc. In the ring, it's such a tough call to make because Tank's amazing. Tank's skills are really, really good. That if you notice the way he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz made an error where he threw 3 of the same punches in a row, straight right hands. He hit Tank with one, then he threw another one which Tank partially blocked, And then he threw a third right in a row, which Tank ducked to the side, or he slipped to the side and came up with the uppercut that turned his lights out. You cannot do that against a top-level fighter. You can't throw the same punch 3 times in a row. And kudos to Tank, man. He was prepared. He made the adjustment in the ring because he was getting tagged a little bit. Not a lot. I don't think maybe there wasn't a lot of fear there because Santa Cruz is a little smaller than him, just, size-wise. Taller, but not as big. So it's not like Tank's looked invincible, but that was a spectacular knockout. But he's shorter. He's a lot shorter than Ryan Garcia by several inches. I think Tank's 5'5", 5'6", and Garcia's 5'10", 5'11". I mean, it's a sizable difference. And it's not just it's not that Garcia is a typical long fighter. Usually doesn't have flush KO power or one punch, kiss of death power. It's usually an accumulation, like Paul Williams, if you remember him. Just tall fighters that when you're punching down on an opponent, I know it seems weird, but when you're punching down on an opponent, you tend to lose a little bit of power. Punching up, you actually have more leverage because you're using your legs. So that's why smaller fighters, usually they're stockier as well, but that's why they usually have more power. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I think either one, if they get caught, could go down. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends in a knockout. A little more worried about Garcia's chin. I mean, he got up from it and responded well, but I mean, that was a big shot that he took. I don't know if he takes that kind of shot from Tank, will he be able to survive the follow-up? I don't know. And if Tank is in there with the tallest fighter he's ever been in the ring with, the best fighter he's ever been in the ring with, who can punch, it's 50-50, man. Back against the wall. Back against the wall, I say Tank, but it's close. It's close. I'll probably change my mind 6 times before it happens. But anyway, back to the business stuff. This is the kind of stuff, man. You can't just rely on the typical vanilla marketing schemes. You don't just put out a press release to Boxing Scene or ESPN, and then you do your press tour and you go on a couple podcasts. This is what he needed, man. See, Ryan's smart. He's a young kid, 21, I think, but he's smart. He went on Mike Tyson. He leveraged his views. He went on Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing podcast. Immediately started talking shit, which I love that. Immediately started talking shit. Then they got Tank on the phone. They're jawing at each other live on his show, which is now has millions of views across all social networks. Ryan's pumping it, Tank's pumping it. Even Leonard Ellerby jumped on Twitter pumping it, even recommending Teofimo Lopez to fight Devin Haney. They're setting this up. I love it. But if he doesn't go on that podcast, I ask you this: if he doesn't go on that podcast, and him and Tank don't have that confrontation, are we here today? Are we actually? Do you think that fight actually becomes next? I don't know if it does. I think that there is. I think that these kinds of things are needed. Jay Prince, who used to manage Floyd Mayweather, manages Andre Ward, or used to manage Andre Ward, as well as a bunch of other fighters. He talked about it on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, about when he first started working with Floyd Mayweather. Diego Corrales was the killer in the division. He was like 30-0, 29 knockouts, and Floyd wasn't sure if this was the right time because that was like viewed as a big fight. They didn't want to take it too early. They wanted to maximize the value. So they were discussing if it was the right time, and they went to HBO. HBO, made him a decent offer, but also didn't have a date in mind. So it was very much wishy-washy if it was going to happen soon. Jay Prince thought in his mind this was a good opportunity or timing to beat Diego. I think he was going through personal stuff, etc. So anyway, he convinced Floyd to show up at an event that he knew Diego was going to be at, and get in his face, push him, and talk all kinds of trash. I think he even turned it into Diego was in trouble for beating his girlfriend or wife at the time, I think, and so then they were trying to swing it into Floyd's going to beat him for all the women in the world. It's like the publicity angle. So, but anyway, that turned into a huge event. The very next morning after Floyd confronted him in a public setting like that, HBO called Jay Prince upped his contract from a $15 million offer to, I think, close to a $30 million offer for a multi-fight contract with HBO, as well as found an open date for him when they had previously told him there wasn't one available. Next thing you know, the rest is history. They made the fight. Floyd knocked him out. I think he knocked him down 5 times. And that fight, you talk to everyone, that fight was the springboard that launched Floyd into, that was the beginnings of Pretty Boy to Money Mayweather. And this is exactly what I think is going to happen here. I think whoever comes out of this, the winner, is going to be on that launch pad to superstardom. They're already on the launch. There will be a superstar if they win that fight, especially if it ends in as exciting fashion as I expect it to. So these are the tools, man. These are the kinds of things that smart managers, smart promoters are doing. The game has changed. Don't get stuck in the mud. And if you're just starting out in the industry, you need to think about these things. Early on, the first couple fights in a fighter's career, this isn't the kind of stuff you're going to be doing. You're going to be trying to sell tickets to friends and family and build them up, and keep them active and stuff. But when you, over time, the compound interest of all this attention and excitement, and you got to capitalize on this cool stuff, man. And that's really the difference between a fighter who's making $1 million plus in a fight and a fighter with a similar record who's, maybe making 100,000, couple 100,000. So, anyway, take a page. Ryan Garcia, by far, head and shoulders above the rest of the division and maybe the rest of most of boxing in how to promote a fight as a fighter. So managers and promoters are doing the smart thing and kind of riding that coattail, and it's exciting times. So anyway, I just want to touch on this. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, it's happening. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link below of where you can watch that. So, all right, thanks, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.